This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. I want to cover more of the stuff that's going on over in the Middle East, in the land of bagels, and what is going on the Lady Gaza Strip. And more of these stories continue to come out, and we all have to keep an eye on how these stories are being processed because they're still using the dividing mechanism. They're still actually admitting that a lot of these attacks on innocent civilians are being done directly from Bagelville itself, which shows you that they want that narrative out there. Because remember, Bagelville owns all the media. They control all media, not some media, all media. They control the left and the right media. The reason they want that out there is because they're using this as a dividing mechanism. They're using Palestine and the civilians there versus Bagelville and the victims there as two separate entities to divide people around the world. And that's what we're seeing. So it's filtering out of that area and it's hitting all different areas of the world. It's hitting America, it's hitting the UK. We're seeing protests, we're seeing riots, we're seeing people siding with one side versus the other side. And in reality, what should be happening is civilians should be siding with civilians against these governments. That's what should be happening. That's what they don't want to have happen. So as long as they can keep you divided, choosing a team, even if the team is in the wrong and the other team is in the right or vice versa, that keeps you in the divided mechanism, which is what they need and what they want to bring in a new world order. Now, who is really in the wrong here? Well, Mossad controls all sides of this. Israel controls all sides. Bagelville controls all sides of what's going on. They're responsible for it. They're the core of the New World Order. So as much violence as they're bringing on refugees, what's frightening about it is that we're seeing Christians supporting this, saying that they deserve it, that they're the chosen people, so they should be able to wipe people off the face of it. I mean, it's really inverted what we're seeing, right? So Bagelville just decided to strike a refugee camp to the ground. For those of you that are like, I don't know what a refugee camp is. Well, a refugee camp is an area where civilians will go who need assistance, people who have been forced to flee from their homes. So the fact that the Bagel army, the Bagel military is striking refugee camps, just like we saw earlier with the hospital, shows you that they're striking civilians. They are attacking civilians. So when they push this narrative out there, they want to continue to make sure that you're siding with either the Bagels or you're siding with the Palestinians, not siding with other civilians, rising up as civilians to take down this globalist cabal, which is destroying civilian lives, which is trying to hurt us into a new world order. That's what we all should be focusing on, and that's what we all should be doing, is rising up as citizens, but we're not. So in America, when the stories come out, and you even go on CNN, you have Wolf Blitzer. I covered him on the website many times over. You have all these Zionists on CNN who are supporting Palestine. It should be enough for people to go, why are these people who constantly are spewing Semitism and all this other stuff, why are they siding with these specific people then? Well, they're siding with them because they're keeping you in a divide. So they're playing this with the left and right, and they're having the right be sympathetic and the right side with Bagelville. This is by design because this is eventually going to lead to the demise of Christianity, because in a global new world order, there is no religion. It's a one world religion, and the religion is going to be, it's going to be duped. It's going to be a religion. Is going to be, this spirituality that we all hear about, right? Where it's like peace and love and unity, and oh yes, and it'll be all under the guise of the Antichrist. That's what it's going to be. This love, universal love movement, and everyone's going to fall for it. So I want to play a couple of things here. A subscriber on the website, Lee the Flea, posted a clip of Bill Cooper a few days ago, and I've used Bill Cooper many times in the past, but Bill Cooper just gives a quick 30-second rundown on how what the Bagel's role is in the New World Order, right? And how they need American citizens and other citizens to ask for world peace, right? So they need to bring about so much chaos that people get so worn down that they can destroy the infrastructure of governments, they can destroy the sovereignty of nations, and they can bring about a new world order by saying, we'll bring peace, we'll bring peace, we'll bring peace, there'll be no more fighting, everybody will be united as one. And of course, these are all things that sound wonderful on the surface, but this leads to global enslavement, and that's what these idiots don't understand. Here's the clip of Bill Cooper that Leah posted on the website.
What role in the Middle East, again, does Israel play in this? Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecy, a war that would be so terrible, where nuclear weapons would be used, so that the American citizens and the other people in the world would get down on their knees and beg for no more war. And what is the answer to that? They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity in a one world government.
Right.
And again, there's a lot of great stuff like that on the website, Uprising Revival. I want to thank Lee for posting it. I've seen this interview specifically with Bill, which is a lot longer, many times over. It's a really good interview. Lots of stuff like that that's buried on YouTube that you can't find anymore is available on the website that people share. So I appreciate Lee sharing that. And I appreciate everybody on the website for all the great information that they share over there. So I think what we have to do is, obviously we all know, right? For those of you who are really awake, you understand that Bagelville is responsible for all of it, because Bagelville is not really Bagelville. Okay, when they adopted Bagelville in 1948 and gave it the name, that biblical name in 1948, they used it as a front. It's a military force. It is the New World Order's government. It is the New World Order's military. And they're creating all the world wars. They're creating all the conflicts. And that's why you see them attacking civilians and being able to get away with it, because they had to victimize themselves first to make this seem like, okay, well, they were victimized, so they have a right to do it. So Christians are automatically going to side with this specific place because of the Bible, because the Bible talks about this specific place. However, it's not specifically talking about this. This place was hijacked, and then they took the name and they placed it on this specific piece of land to dupe Christians, because they know that Jerusalem is there, and they know other biblical places there, and they know that Christians will give their undying support no matter what is done. So now we're seeing them flexing their muscle openly on purpose, right? Because remember, this stuff's on purpose. They don't need to tell you that the Bagel military is bombing refugee camps. They don't need to tell us this, right? We're all the way over here. Why are they telling us this? They're telling us this because it's a dividing mechanism. And as long as they have these dividing mechanisms, they can herd you. So they're herding people and they're dividing people even more, again, amongst each other. And the more they can keep us divided amongst one another, the more they win. And that's what matters. The fact that people are they take sides, like they're picking between, the Eagles and the Cowboys. That's what they look at this as. They're like, I'm on this side. Oh, well, they were attacked first. And then they try to justify it instead of going, wait a minute. This is very peculiar. I remember hearing of histories of war and militaries would fight one another, and whoever won, would seize the land or something along those lines. Who's ever heard of militaries blowing up other people's, hospitals and refugee camps, right? We've all heard about war crimes, which is just one of the biggest jokes ever created, the fact that there's a thing called a war crime. But supposedly these are, in play. Meanwhile, all the press can walk around the streets perfectly fine and don't have to worry about anything because they're there to promote the propaganda, so of course they're protected. But we have refugee camps being blown up, hospitals being blown up, churches being blown up. Is anyone noticing that all these missiles and all these things are direct attacks on civilians? What's it going to take? Well, it's going to take a lot because nobody's paying attention to that. They think that like this is a Nintendo game where missiles are running amok and they just go out, they just shoot them up in the air. They're like, go land wherever you're going to land. Oh, we shot one in the air and oops, it hit a hospital. These are all direct hits. These are all done by design. And at what point are people going to go, wait a minute, why are they attacking these specific civilian landmarks where there's innocent people who have sought refuge and sought shelter? Well, they're doing this by design because they're attacking civilians, but they're also doing it because it's making people even more irate. So when Bagelville attacks a refugee camp, it makes somehow, which is the most crazy thing about this, is that the libs are all pro-Palestine and the conservatives are all pro-Bagelville. And reality is that conservatives should be pro-civilian, I should say, because if everybody realized that Bagelville's behind all of it, like they attack themselves, they attack their own people, they fund the hummus food, they're the ones who are funding the militant groups, okay? They're the ones responsible, just like they conveniently had their guard down when the attack started from the get-go. But no, they somehow have convinced people using their 100% bagel media, right? So that's what people just need to get. Let's get to this point, right? If you realize that the media is fully run and controlled out of Tel Aviv, because it is, all the media, left and right, then stories like this don't get out unless they want it to get out, right? So you're seeing just wicked attacks on civilians, and the Tel Aviv-owned media is covering it, saying, oh, children were carrying other injured children. Witness describes aftermath of bagel strike on Lady Gaza refugee camp. Let me play a clip from 1976 of the Shah of Iran. And no, this is not Phil Leotardo from Sopranos, even though, well, that's an inside joke, I guess. But this is the Shah of Iran back in the 70s talking about how the bagels own and control the majority of the media then. Just imagine how much different it is 50 years later. Listen to this clip.
Well, pressuring, they have many means at their disposal. They are putting up pressure on many, many people.
Why would the President of the United States pay attention?
They are strong.
Strong in what sense?
They are controlling many things.
Controlling what?
Newspapers, medias,
Your Majesty.
banks, finances, and I'm going to stop there.
Well, now wait just a second. You really do believe that the Jewish community in the United States is that powerful? They make the media reflect their view of foreign policy?
Mm-hmm.
They do not report, we do not report honestly?
I say in the media they have people.
The New York Times, for instance, is owned by the Sulzberger family, who are Jewish. Are you suggesting that the New York Times is biased in its treatment of the question of Zionism, Israel's existence, the United States' relationship with the Arab world?
I will have to put all the articles of the New York Times written and draw the conclusion. You can put this to the computer and it will answer you.
You're saying is that, yes, you do believe.
Well, let's wait for the answer of the computer.
So they own and control the media. So they're letting this out there because, again, they always have to be the victim. They always have to be in the right. But in this situation, they want this stuff out there because they want to keep people fully divided on this. Okay? Because they want it to be a sided war. They want people to side with one side versus the other side, and then they can continue the bombardment of civilians, etc. And then they point the finger at the other side, right? Just like we see with the left and right? All this craziness, Republicans point a finger at Democrats, and then they point a finger at Democratic voters. Oh, you voted for these people. They realize that nobody voted for these people, and that, yes, there's unhinged, mentally challenged people who support this behavior. We'll get past that and realize that none of that stuff even counts or matters when it comes to your vote, and that these are dividing mechanisms to keep us pointing fingers at each other, just like with this situation here. It's just turned into a left-right situation. The right and left are pointing fingers at each other. They're airing stories about college campuses and, oh, it's the same stuff that fits into the left-right divide. Now it's filtered into this. Oh, can you believe all these crazy students at colleges are supporting Palestine? Oh, it shows you how far our school systems have fallen. It's the same stuff. Okay, and it's done by design to keep you in a divided mechanism. So let's look at this story now. The airstrike targeting a hummus the food commander in the densely populated Jabalia refugee camp in northern Lady Gaza has left catastrophic damage and killed a large number of people, according to eyewitnesses and medics in the enclave. The devastation wrought by the strike triggered a fresh groundswell of grief over spiraling civilian casualties as Gazans awoke to another communications blackout Wednesday morning. Survivors and eyewitnesses spoke of apocalyptic scenes in the aftermath of the strike, which tore a massive crater through the middle of the crowded camp. I was waiting in line to buy bread when suddenly and without any prior warning, 7 to 8 missiles fell. And of course, I love it. They have people like this is happening to you and you're running and giving interviews. I'm not saying that the story's fake as far as them dropping a bomb or really detonating a refugee camp, because that's really what it was. They really just have all these buildings lined up and they herd them into these buildings and then they detonate them. Okay. But the fact that somebody has this happen and they survive and then they're ready to give an interview to CNN, like CNN has an interview over there, they're calling into CNN in America, in Atlanta to give it's ridiculous. Right? But it shows you that people don't think past the propaganda and how all this stuff works. They think it just naturally occurs that the guy was like, I'm waiting in line to buy bread when suddenly, without any prior warning, 8 missiles fell. According to Mohammed Ibrahim, he told CNN he was very willing to give the interview, of course. He says there were 7 to 8 huge holes in the ground full of killed people, body parts all over the place. It felt like the end of the world. It felt like the end of the world. There's body parts everywhere, but you're calling in and interviewing with CNN. You're not, crying, you're not devastated, you're not angry, you're just ready to give a statement to CNN so that people could have, it's so important for people to get the fake news. And I say fake news because, again, all this stuff is contrived. It's a contrived war. There's not really a war going on. Okay, the Hamas people, the Hamas military and the Bagel military are not fighting each other. They're fighting the civilians. That's what they're doing. They're destroying the civilians, and each one can point a finger at the other. Oh, they did that bomb. They did that one. And then all they do is psychologically herd the rest of the world into who's right and who's wrong. Who's right and who's wrong. And then like you heard in the Bill Cooper clip, this just continues on and on and on. And eventually people are just so worn out and exhausted by it. And there'll be more. There's going to be it right here on American soil. I've said it over and over again. It's all done by design. They already have all the narratives in place with the border and how we've allowed people in so that we're all going to believe it. Oh, we shouldn't have let the borders open. When, Biden and Trump and all of them on the same side are flying these people in. The left and right are flying them in. And they don't even need to fly anyone in. Let's be real. I mean, our own governments, the CIA, et cetera, are just going to put bombs in buildings and detonate them. That's what's going to occur. And then they're going to tell us it's a boogeyman who has a towel over his head, et cetera, et cetera. The exact stereotype they always give us so that when they show us a mugshot or a shadow figure, it looks like the one they always show us, the boogeyman, and we all believe it, right? Because that's what this is. And like Bill Cooper said, it's to end sovereignty. It's to bring all nations down, to bring in a new world order. This is how they've always planned to do it. Everything has to be destroyed to bring it in. So that's why you've seen like government structure in America destroyed on purpose, right? That's why you see everybody clamoring for the destruction of the Supreme Court, the Senate, all the ridiculous stuff in the House with constantly changing the speaker over and over, acting like children, all done by design. It's all psychological to convince you that this government's failing, that this isn't working, the structure doesn't work. And yeah, the government is failing because the government's sold out. That's why it's failing, because everybody in there has been placed in there. They haven't been voted in, and they've been placed in there to destroy the government, to destroy the structure of it, so they can bring about this enslaved one world government. And everybody's going to think the one world government's wonderful when it comes, because they're not going to realize it. It's like the Stepford Wife mindset. Oh, everything's great. Punch me in the face. Boom. Oh, yeah, everything's wonderful. Right? They're just getting tasered and thinking everything's okay. That's how this is going to work. These people are completely brain dead who think this is going to be good. So continues on. The IDF also said numerous other Hamas the food terrorists were hit in the strike and claimed the Central Jabal Battalion had taken control of civilian buildings. The Hamas food, however, strongly denied the presence of one of its leaders in the refugee camp. A spokesman for the militant group accused Bagelville of attempting to justify what it described as a heinous crime against safe civilians, children, and women. And this is back and forth, right? How many times do we need to hear this about civilians that are attacked before regular civilians around the world armor up and go and do battle against this, right? And say, enough's enough, we're stopping this from occurring. Like you have the UN trying to play it safe, right? Saying like, oh, we're calling for peace and safety, right? Oh, we're calling for peace and safety. They're behind it too. And they're behind they look at it and they hate all of us anyway. But they look at it and they go, well, it's for a great cause. So we're going to kill all these babies and kids anyway, even though they're Satanists, so they're fine with it. But they look at it and say, all right, this is for the betterment of humanity. A global government's better for the betterment of humanity. And we're going to kill all these civilians. And these idiots are going to fall for it and believe that these militaries are doing it because they're just so enraged by being attacked and not deliberately targeting civilians when they are deliberately targeting civilians. And civilians, we outnumber them so much so. That's why it's so important for them to keep us picking sides instead of picking each other up, waking each other up and saying, hey, civilians need to band together now. You need to arm up. You need to get, ex-military involved who are civilians now, who could help train and lead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because this is going to continue to happen. And it's going to be too late because people in America are like, oh, it's not going to happen here. So that's a crazy mindset. Then it happens here. Then what? Then what? Then you go, oh, it's not going to happen again here. Then it happens again here. Then what? Then what? Then it's too late. Right? Because then all of a sudden they have the gun laws passed where nobody could really arm up the way they need to arm up. They have the armor laws passed where civilians can't get armor because all the idiots think it has to do with schooling. Oh, we have to protect the schools. We can't sell armor anymore because the guys shooting up the schools have armor on. Huh? So you have to ban body armor? Oh, they want to ban body armor because they know that civilians, in case they go to war against this one world government military, well, they don't want them to be able to protect themselves. So, I mean, it's really easy to see, but nobody seems to see it. So they go on, the article just goes on to talk about civilians being attacked. It's the same thing we heard at the hospital, and you're going to hear it back and forth. And then you're going to watch the idiots, the zombies out there, side with one side, side with the other side, side with one side, side with the other side. And every Christian's going to go, well, I side with Bagelville because the Bible tells me to. They could be killing innocent children. I'm siding with them. They're God's chosen people. They're defending themselves because they're so brain dead. It's incredible that they're, Christian, that they can be duped so easily, but they can. They can. I mean, I see it. I get idiots writing on every video. Replacement ideology. Like they've been trained into thinking of this some type of replacement ideology. These morons. I guess they get it from their pastors that are pushing this down. They're so stupid. It's incredible. It's really incredible. You know, I don't claim to be more intelligent than pastors and know scripture better, et cetera, et cetera. But with this stuff, I know it to a T. Okay, I've studied it to a T. There's a reason I've been silenced over and over again talking about it, because it's the truth. It's the truth. The Bible, it's not like the Bible doesn't say anything about those claiming to be and aren't, right? If the Bible didn't mention that there were fakes, that people were pretending to be something that they weren't, if the Bible didn't speak of great deceptions, et cetera, and falling aways, then maybe I can understand people being skeptical, saying, whoa, where are you getting all this from? But the Bible prophesizes this. And what's happening right now is prophecy. And these idiots have mechanisms in place already where they're like not even listening to the Bible. They're just going, oh, it's replacement ideology. Replacement ideology? Is that in the Bible? Oh, no, it's not. Oh, so some pastor decided that if you don't, some 501c3 who's fully protected and tax exempt is thrilled that they don't have to pay taxes. Okay? They're just excited about that. So they'll do whatever bidding they're supposed to do. And all that bidding is that they have to be tied into Zionism and defend Zionism. So, of course, they've been told to put these mechanisms in place, and they do, and then their congregation follows it and regurgitates it like the zombies that they are, even though they think that they're awake when they're not awake. So this mechanism is going to continue to just spill over where we see everybody continue to side with one side versus the other. That's why the liberal media is siding with Palestine and the Republican media is siding with Israel. I mean, Bagelville. That's done by design. And you're also going to see that there's not going to be a ton of censorship on this topic except for me, okay, or anybody who's speaking like me. Because if anyone who's speaking and saying that, you know, pointing out that Bagelville is controlling the entire operation, they control both sides, that they're attacking civilians on both sides, that they're bringing in the New World Order structure, those people will be silenced. But if you're siding with one side, you'll be fine. So in other words, if you're Ben Shapiro and you're calling on everybody to side with the bagels, you're perfectly fine. And if you're a liberal media and you're calling on everyone to side with Palestine, you're perfectly fine because you're hurting your audience into the two sides. If you're exposing who's behind it, which is the bagels, okay, and you're exposing the fact that this is done by design, that the militant groups are operated out of Bagelville, okay, that they run and control them and finance them, then people wake up and they realize, okay, this is a war on civilians, and the civilians need to fight for their freedoms right now and stand up and rise against this. And again, the thing they fear the most is the fact that there's so many more of us. We outnumber them so much so that even with their weaponry, they still fear us. Because yes, a lot of civilians would end up getting wiped out for the cause, but ultimately we would win because we would outnumber them. It would be, I don't know what the math would be, but I'd say it's like double digits to 1 for each person. So even if they have all this high-tech technology and we just have bats, I mean, we'd still outnumber them, right? And that's one of the reasons that they specifically want to take that one specific weapon out of your home. That one, well, not out of your home. Most people don't have one, but they don't want you to be able to buy one. That's why it's always the same weapon used at these scenes, because that weapon could take out more of them at once. And with armed civilians, you could take their military down very, very fast. So this is, I'm not spewing this out of my rear end. This is factual. This is what's going on. They cannot allow the civilians to become aware, right? It's like they live. We've got ones that can see it. The civilians can see and realize it. As has happened throughout history, so many people have woken up and seen the deception of the fake bagel, and they've run these people out. They cannot have it happen again, because this time it'll be too late. This time they won't be given any free passes anywhere. They'll all be in prison, all of them. And they can't have that happen. So now that they have full control of the media and all the politicians, they're going forward with this. But they still fear the civilians because the numbers game, right? It's the oldest trick, and like it's basic war, right? You don't even need to know anything about war or anything like that. If I told you that there was going to be a fight on the school playground, okay, and the biggest, toughest kid on school, he's got jacked arms, he looks like Hulk Hogan, and he's out there waiting for the one kid, and he's like the little scrawny kid, right? Like the David and Goliath story, right? But that little scrawny kid's got 25 friends with him, and they might all do different sizes and whatever. And the one big kid standing there, and 25 kids show up. He's going to be, oh, all right, well, I can't really do anything. Because even if I could knock every one of these kids out individually, they could just jump on me and maul me, right? Everybody would say that 25 kids would beat the one kid. And suddenly the story would flip from like, oh, yeah, the big bad bully's going to beat up the dorky kid. Wait a minute, it's 25-1. Now the big bad bully is the underdog, right? That's how it would work with civilians against these bullies. That's what they are. That's what they've always been. They're satanic bullies and they're psychopaths. And if you read their books and you realize what they want to do to the rest of us, you would arm up. You would lay your life down for the cause. This isn't something to go, well, I don't really want to get involved in. No, when you're enslaved, you'll say, I wish I got involved. Because what they have planned for us is our utter demise and destruction. Your way of life over, gone. Have you noticed all the things they've tried to take that they want to take out of our lives? They don't want you to be able to use wood-burning stoves. They don't want you to be able to control your thermostat. Right? They want to tell you how you should raise your kid. They want your kid to get gender-affirming care. All this stuff's in their books. And they want this to be a normal way of life. And then you have the people who oppose it the most, the conservatives, supporting them. Not even realizing it because they're hell-bent. Their preachers have beaten into their head. Those who pray and love Bagelville, God loves. And all the verses in the scripture that we see being inverted and twisted and not interpreted properly. And then, of course, ignoring the most important one about it. Those who claim to be and are not of the synagogue of Satan. So we're seeing refugee camps, all this stuff done by design. They don't need to report these stories, do they? Why would does this story need to be reported? I mean, obviously, things need to be reported, but they only report what they want. They don't report any of this stuff to make you aware. Like, we got to make everybody aware that a refugee camp. They do it to herd you. It's a herding mechanism. Otherwise, these stories would never get out. They wouldn't need to unless there was an agenda behind it. Like, if something accidentally happened that wasn't part of their plans, they're not going to report on it. They wouldn't report if some building blew up in Taiwan or something, and some crazy terror guy did it, and it didn't tie into anything. They wouldn't even report it, right? They take the guy, they'd probably motorboat him, and that would be the end of him. Okay, point being is that all the stories come out by design. So even when we look at it, we got to go, okay, well, why are the bagels being, they're coming out saying that they hit the refugee thing? Because look how they're using the left and right to play into this, to keep us divided amongst each other. When civilians realize who is behind it, and it is the bagels, the conservatives are siding with the lunatics. They don't understand at all. They think they're awake and they're not. Then the civilians would be able to rise up and stop this. And I'm talking about all the things they're trying to implement in our lives. We could stop. And people are like, well, they've created, this is part of the other stuff they've done. Creating weak men, right? Men who are too interested in playing with dolls and toys and video games from their past because they can't face the horrors of today, right? They've done this by design so that men are not going to stand up. In other time periods, revolutionary wars, etc., men stood up because they said, you know what? I don't want my kids to grow up in this. I don't want my wife to grow up in this or to deal with this. I will lay my life down for their freedom. That's what we've seen in all these movies depicted, right? But no, in today's society, everyone just ignores it. They go, oh, well, it's not the same. No, it's 10 times worse than any war. It's going to be. And the enemy here is the worst enemy we've ever seen. Ever. It's the synagogue of Satan that we're fighting against. So as Christians, it's the ultimate enemy, right? And people would lay their lives down for this cause because they wouldn't want any other children to grow up in this, knowing what's going to be normalized and what's going to be done to them. But instead, what are people doing? They're ignoring it, just going, oh, he's being dramatic. He's fear-mongering. Oh, it's not going to be as bad. Then attacks are going to occur in America, and everyone's still going to ignore it and be like, oh, I'm still safe. I'm still fine. Oh, it's not as bad as he says. Just like with the magic potion, when we all talked about it, how it was coming, it came. Nobody said we were right. They still went and got the potion. They still say we're wrong. Same thing. It's so ingrained in them, and they've been weakened so much as men that they don't want to face any of this stuff. It's too harsh. That's why I get so much criticism. People are like, oh, it's too negative over there. I can't watch it. Too negative over here? All right, I get it. I mean, it's a lot to handle, right? It's a lot to handle. You don't have to listen to every video. But when you're doing that, you're like, oh, I can't listen to that stuff. It's too scary. You're just admitting to being weak. So you know it's true and it's going on, but you don't want to hear it because you don't want to accept it, because you want to just pretend like everything's fine and go play Nintendo all day until crap hits the fan and it's at your front door. I'm trying to prepare people for this. I'm trying to tell people how to be awake, aware, and how to fight against it. And most people, they're too distracted with earthly things, with worldly things, which is what they want. They've done this by design. They've spoiled everyone in America, especially with games and cars and all this other crap, with food, all these things that we take for granted that are going to be pulled out from under us. And then everyone's going to be left defenseless and herded into this because they're going to go, I just want my phone back. I just want my bed back. Oh, yeah, well, here's a bed at the FEMA camp. Hope you enjoy. Don't mind the barbed wire fence outside surrounding you. That's only to make you feel safe. And they'll go, oh, okay, I feel safe. It's not to keep you in. It's to make you feel safe, to keep intruders out. Oh, okay, because that's how dumb and weak they are. We've got to step up. We've got to man up, and we've got to prepare. I thank everyone for being here. Hope to see you on the website. Please consider joining if you haven't. Even if you don't want the content over there, just the support by joining the website helps a lot. This channel's been obvious. You all know the story. I don't need to repeat it. But uprisingrevival.com is the website. And you get uncensored, unfiltered content, and you get a lot of the forum itself is worth it. There's tons of great stuff. Just like that Bill Cooper clip I showed. People are just always posting stuff. Whether you've seen it before or not, I've seen the Bill Cooper video hundreds of times. But it always comes at a great time. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that Bill Cooper interview. Great that somebody posted it. Right? Those types of things. Refreshers. Constantly seeing things again that we've seen in the past. Piecing things together. That's what the website's all about. So definitely check it out if you haven't, uprisingrevival.com. And make sure now, if you're still listening, which I doubt anyone is, please sub to my 2 channels linked below. United Uprising, which I finally got a logo for, and A Call for Vengeance. Okay, please sub to both now. I need to build those out. I need your help. So please do that. Thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.